In this video, what I'm going to be covering is in the FileMaker 14, the new version, how to set up and use the labels. In this case, I'm going to be looking at the labels. I'm currently in the consigners report. You're going to be looking at consign labels or consign labels on the 3-inch size. What you want to do when you're in this particular screen is to make sure that you are in the list view, and you see that it's highlighted in blue. If you're in the form view, what you're going to do is get one record, and that's not going to be what you want to do. So you should always have this clicked, and this is a list view. The next thing you want to do is go into the find mode and pick the actual consigner that you want to print their records. Now what you're going to be able to do, and I'm going to show you this in a second, is you can omit certain records if you want to. If you're going to do a find based on all the records that are in there, you can click and put in the consigner name by dropping it down and picking that consigner. And in this particular case, the consign data ID is the 53 record, the consigner ID, which is this one, and then this is the date over here. Now you can do a search also on the date and in the find mode where you do equal to or greater than and put the first date, and then less than or equal to the following date, and that way you can pick the items by the date that they were actually consigned. In this case, this is the June 3 through whatever dates, and in this case you see all the records in here are June. Now if I go into find mode, what it's going to do, it's going to drop down, and what you can do is either pick it by the name or the ID. In this case I'm going to use ID 53, and ID 53 is right about in here. Is 54, and I'm going to look for 53. And the reason I'm picking 53 is it's got a number of records in it. And I can just go and click off, and I can say perform the find, and now all the records are in here. Now if I wanted to do a date range, I can go ahead and select for this date range, put the formula in this particular field, and then go from there. But you'll notice that the records have changed their look. In this case, what you want to do is click on sort, and then run the sort by clicking on sort, and you'll notice that it puts a header in by the person's name, the date, and the actual ID for the data, which is the consigner's ID. And there you will notice that there is 26 records included in this. Now if you're doing a number of pages where there are up to maybe 30 or 40 list views where you can have the items listed, then you would go ahead and pick that particular thing. Now in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the pop-up menu, I'm going to go down to the labels, click on labels, and you'll note in here that it's still got the 26 records showing out of 240 that are currently in there. It lists the consigner ID, the description of the item, the consigned date, the ID number for the item itself, and the category. And in this case it'll put the price down here. Now if I go to preview and look at the screen, you can see that everything is very equally spaced and looks very clear as far as all the items that are in there. Now what happens if you're actually in here, you can see that when you're in the preview you have another button you can click on here that allows you to do the page setup. If I bring over the page setup, you can see that I can set the actual size. In this case I've got them to 90%. And what they do is if they are moving around on the margins, because different printers cause pushes of margins, you can scale this slightly down so that everything fits on the page properly. And as you can see here, I've got 3 equally spaced items on the page. Now if you have to tweak this a little bit, you can go one way or the other as far as the size of these items. Now I have it 10% reduced from 100%, and everything fits in there nice. Now what I would normally do is print a page like this on plain paper, then put them up to a light with the labels showing behind this, and or put these behind the labels themselves, and then put it up to a light so you can see if these are going to fit within the box on the actual screen where they belong. If they do, now you can see that I can scroll down here and I can see that there's one blank space left on there, so there are actually 27 individual ones listed here. Now what happens is if you are looking at the sheet and you have more than that, you're going to have to come out of exit, preview, and then you can go to the next page. And what's going to happen, the next page, as you see this will go down, it'll continue down until it shows you all the items on the page, but up at the top here you can see that there's 26 instead of 27 items, and 3 times whatever the length is down here is going to give you that. Now be aware that when you're using this and you're going to print, that if you have less than or more than the amount of items on the page, you may want to only print as many as it will fit on one page if the next page is only going to print a lesser amount. So in this case, when I'm looking at this, there's one blank on the page. That particular space is going to be wasted. Now, it's a case where when you're doing labels, you can pick more than one person. You can add 2 people together or 3 in order to fill a number of pages that will give you an equal amount of stuff on the pages. And recall, as I said before, you can also omit records or add records to fill one complete page each time you want to print. You can take more than one person, and you can search for both IDs or one ID as far as that's concerned, and bring those records up and then print on a full sheet, so you cover the full sheet for those items. Now, I'm going to clarify this a little bit. What happens is that if you have a person that came in and consigned less than the amount of items that will fill one page, yet you still want to print them, you can add additional people in there, or more than one person, as far as the one that will fill up a full page. If you don't fill the full page, and say, for example, they're blank from here down, you're going to waste these on one label screen. As far as the page is concerned, you cannot reprint on the same page if there's just these left that were going to be blank. You cannot take that sheet that was printed and then go back and print over it again, because it's always going to start at the top left-hand corner and start printing. So it's going to mess up and put stuff right over the top of the screen. Or if you have less than that, it's only going to print, let's say like you had 10, it's only going to print the first 10 items, 3 across, going down until you have 10. And it's going to fill everything from here on will be blank, and you'll waste all those label spaces. Okay, once again, to recap, use the page setup to scale. And of course here, if I go back to 100%, by typing that in, you can see that when I click OK, you're going to see that it actually did 100%, but it kind of squeezed everything up a little bit. And you might see that it actually pushed things over a little too close to one of the other sides. So you have to maybe tweak, and it really depends on the printer. Now, this actually would print normally and give you a margin, and it should fill the screen and the labels correctly. If you have any issues with printing, I recommend that you do try to use the page setup to scaling them. If you need any more help, you can always contact me for additional support. Thank you.